楽しい楽しい
So, Mental Out Chapter 3 has been released and translated into English, so I thought I might as well cover it on the channel, since I have done so with the previous 2 chapters. Also, I'm finding the Mental Out manga more interesting than the Railgun manga as of late, but I do want to make a video covering my general thoughts on the Railgun manga as of late, and I'll probably do that this week or next week, but for now I'll share my thoughts on Mental Out Chapter 3. Overall, I'm kind of conflicted on this chapter. There's something I'm really liking about this chapter, but there's another thing which I'm not very fond of, and I'll get to that later. So in this chapter we learn that Misaka's voice was played by student council members, and the reason why is not explicitly mentioned. I'm assuming that they don't really like Shokuho and don't want her in power, and one of them seemingly enjoys the chaos of the student politics. Although the other girl is a bit apprehensive that they could get caught and then get in a lot of trouble. However, Shokuho finds out that this actually happened with her ability. Although I guess she doesn't have actually any physical evidence that this happened, only her word really, so I doubt anyone will believe her outside her own clique. Shokuho's clique then discusses Misaka and how her involvement will affect the election, as we learnt that Misaka is supporting Gauin Tsukasa in the student election from the previous chapter, and this was actually confirmed to be true later in this chapter. And Shokuho's clique seems to be pretty worried about this, since they are convinced that Misaka's involvement will take votes away from Shokuho's clique. This is what confuses me, because they see Misaka as a viable threat, yet she has no clique. She has no loyal group of support outside of her close friends, maybe, like Kuroko, Wanai, Watsuki, and Kongo, I guess. But I'm just thinking, if majority of students in Tokiwadai are in a clique, why would they not vote for their own clique in Phase 1, since that is allowed as revealed in the previous chapter? Unless the majority of students in Tokiwadai are independent, as in they don't belong to any clique, then what is the allure of voting for Gauin Tsukasa's clique just because Misaka is there? Okay, Misaka is level 5 and seemingly respected as such in the school as a whole, although this hasn't been explored much outside of her close friends, but she doesn't seem to be universally popular in Tokiwadai, as she has few friends there. So while Misaka's involvement is stated to be a considerable threat to Shokuho gaining the vast majority to skip Phase 2 of the election, and just by going through Phase 1 and becoming the president that way. I mean, I get the point of it detracting some votes away from Shokuho's clique, but honestly, I don't see why it would be a huge concern. I guess it all depends on how many students in Tokiwadai are independent, as if they are independent, then they have to vote for a particular clique, so that way the votes are more split. But in an actual clique, they're all just going to vote for the same clique, unless you have like spies or people who don't like the leader of the clique. But then again, if you don't like the leader of the clique, why would you be in that clique in the first place? I mean, what I wanted to know was how many students are in a clique in Tokiwadai and how many aren't, so that way we know the proportion. We know if the majority are in the cliques and the ones who aren't are in the minority. I feel like it's a pretty important detail to not include, as it is a strong indicator about how impactful the votes of the independent students will be in Phase 1. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but honestly, would Misaka's involvement be a considerable threat to the largest clique in Tokiwadai? I'm not sure. I feel like there are way too many variables at play with this, and especially because we don't know the exact number of the proportion of students as well, it makes things like nigh impossible to actually fully assess how much of an impact that Misaka will play in the election. I guess the strategy of Gauin Tsukasa's clique is to get Misaka involved to suck up more of the vote, but again, we need to know the stats to recognise how much of a threat this is. And yet another comment from Shokuho's clique made me think a lot again about this election, as they seem to be really concerned with having good relationships with the other cliques. But I'm just curious, why care so much about the relationships of the other cliques when voting for your own clique is allowed, as revealed in a previous chapter? People are naturally going to want to vote for their own clique, or stop the largest clique from getting a majority in round 1, which is Shoko's clique, as they are the biggest threat to the other cliques outside of Shoko's. So why would cliques care to ally themselves with the biggest clique? Surely it would make more sense for the smaller cliques to gang up on the largest one, and yes, they do mention that, as that's why they say, oh yeah, we need to have good relationships with the cliques. But how can you do that? Like, that's impossible, surely. And even if it's not impossible, how would it even affect the vote if they're going to vote for themselves? Like, I don't get it. Is Shoko's clique trying to look good by having friendly relations with other cliques just to appeal for the independent vote, since the independent vote will have to choose one clique over another, so they might choose the one that is friendly towards the others? I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know that like some students in the other cliques might want to betray their own clique for another, which could happen, but I can only see this as some sort of anomaly, like a very, very small proportion, or spies that have gone into different cliques and then vote for a different clique there. But like, surely like most members who join a clique would want to vote for their own clique leader. Like, come on. Like, am I wrong, or am I not just getting this? Like, am I just overthinking this? Like, someone explain to me in the comments if I'm like getting this wrong, since like this clique election thing, it's not really adding up like totally. I don't know if that's just because I'm an idiot, or if my brain is just finding the faults in this election. I don't know if it's badly written or I'm just not seeing the point, so let me know in the comments. Anyway, a random thing I found weird was, I think Junko calls Misaka Shoko's best friend? I don't know, that kind of made me like, what? Did she really say that? Like, or was she talking about someone else? Let me know. Anyway, Shoko confronts Misaka and they argue, and Misaka reveals that she is actually on Tsukasa's side for reasons unknown, and she questions why Shoko wants to be president of Tokiwadai, and Shoko basically says, for reasons unknown. Damn, there are sure a lot of mysteries in this chapter, but if you thought that was enough, you've got another mystery with Kuroko arresting Junko for election fraud, which was random, and it's for reasons unknown. So there are 3 things we need to find out in future chapters that haven't been explained yet. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Anyway, we go on to the best part of the chapter, which is the final page, where Junko has just been arrested by Kuroko, and in Shoko's phone, she gets a call from a character that has been absent for a long time. I mean, maybe not a long time if you've watched Railgun T, but in terms of like the source material of Index and Railgun, Mitori hasn't been seen for a while. I mean, she might have had that like one throwaway scene in like the Railgun manga, like occasionally, I can't remember, maybe in a Jailbreaker arc, I think, but I don't really count that. So it looks like Mitori is going to play a big role in this manga, I hope. And yeah, her involvement in this, like, I'm not sure why she's calling Shoko. Maybe it's something to do with Dolly, or maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe it's related to the election, but I doubt it, since Mitori isn't a student at Tokiwadai, but who knows? I'm just really curious about what role Mitori will play in this manga, but I'm really excited to see her again. Hopefully we see Dolly as well, and we see Mitori and Shoko working together. I think that'd be really cool to see, since we haven't really seen that before. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this chapter. Is the election, like, just really badly written? Are you excited for Mitori's return? I definitely am. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, my major gripe with this manga so far is just that the election isn't really making much sense. I don't know whether that's just me or it's the writing. But yeah, let me know. Anyway, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.